with some ideas for what can be done to help us tackle those challenges that face us in maintaining compliance with Bill 68. Many of you will remember the Ontario Hydro of 20 or so years ago. At that time, we produced over 95% of the electricity in Ontario, and we had a workforce of 30,000 employees. Starting in the mid-90s, and over the ensuing 10 years or so, the electricity sector was restructured. Ontario Hydro was broken up into 5 successor companies, the largest being the transmission and distribution company, now called Hydro One, and the generation company called OPG. As part of the restructuring, OPG sold and leased some of its generating assets and shut down others, notably our coal generating facilities. In the meantime, other players entered the generation market, producing electricity using natural gas and renewable energy sources such as wind and solar. Today, OPG employs about 11,000 people in highly skilled, well-paying jobs and produces about 60% of Ontario's electricity with an in-service capacity of over 21,000 megawatts. The generating stations we own and lease are shown on this slide. I'm very pleased to be able to say that 95% of our electricity production, which consists mostly of hydroelectric and nuclear, is virtually free of greenhouse gas emissions, reflecting our commitment to the environment. Now, I'd like to focus my attention to OPG's nuclear operations, and mostly it's because I'm most familiar with the nuclear side of the business, having been there for 32 years. OPG operates 10 reactors on the north shore of Lake Ontario, 6 at Pickering and 4 at Darlington, and altogether these reactors produce about 35% of the electricity in Ontario every year. Worker safety is a top priority for OPG, and it reflects in our performance record. Last year, Darlington celebrated a notable milestone of having worked over 11 million hours without a lost time accident. And Pickering is currently at 10.6 million hours without a lost time accident. Nuclear is a unique business. In order to assure safe and reliable operation, every minute of every day, OPG maintains a highly skilled, highly trained, and highly competent workforce with significant oversight from the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission. Nuclear is not only a unique business, it's also a very complex business. It requires a broad variety of skills. On the technical side of the nuclear business, we need mechanical engineering skills for managing mechanical equipment such as pumps, valves, and heat exchangers. We need electrical engineering skills for managing electrical equipment such as transformers, motor controllers, and circuit breakers. And we need civil engineering skills for managing structures, equipment supports, and site infrastructure. In addition to these traditional engineering skills, we need other technical skills that transcend knowledge typically acquired in a university engineering program. For example, we need physicists who can model the complex dynamics of reactor behavior. We need chemists to analyze specific material properties and operating conditions to ensure that critical assets will function reliably for their design life. We need biologists who can understand the impact of the station on the environment and develop solutions to reduce its impact. In short, it takes more than just engineers to provide the technical support that is needed to assure the safe and reliable operation of a nuclear plant. OPG has recognized that it needs to have a broad skill base and has hired accordingly. Although most of its technical staff are recruited from university engineering programs, many have also been recruited from university science programs. A new technical recruit spends the first 2 or so years training and qualifying to become a technical officer. Qualification requires a technical officer to successfully complete specified courses and to demonstrate proficiency on the job. Prior to Bill 68, only those performing work requiring the application of a P-Eng seal were required to hold a license. This work included activities such as design engineering for pressure retaining components or structural engineering for buildings. Every year, All nuclear staff who perform technical work are required to attend a half-day training session titled Conduct of Engineering. This is delivered by a senior engineering leader, typically a vice president or director, to small classrooms. These training sessions reinforce adherence to high standards of performance, as well as professional engineering ethics and conduct. Training and qualification are just one aspect of OPG's QA program. Another notable aspect of OPG's QA program is that all work done by technical staff requires independent verification and approval, almost eliminating the risk of an error by a single individual. Finally, OPG has a rigorous and best-in-class continuous improvement program. All adverse conditions, regardless of significance, are reported through a station condition record, or SCR. More than 30,000 SCRs are generated every year, reflecting the low threshold for reporting. Every one of these SCRs is evaluated and trended, and these trends are used to identify improvements in equipment, processes, and notably training. The result of all this is that OPG has achieved a high standard of human performance and excellent operating performance. I've already mentioned our record for safety of our staff. In addition to this, in 2011, the World Association of Nuclear Operators, which represents the entire fleet of operating reactors worldwide, gave Darlington, the nuclear plant, its highest award for performance. It was the first time that a plant outside the United States was given this prestigious award, and the first time that a 4-unit site anywhere in the world received this award. With the introduction of Bill 68 and the repeal of the industrial exception, OPG needed to take a close look at the work that would be described as, quote unquote, practice of professional engineering, particularly as it applied to the business of operating power plants. OPG developed a flowchart to help all its departments determine what work should be categorized as engineering and what work is not engineering. The guiding principle was that work had to be original in nature and did not fall within the bounds of an existing procedure or design document. For example, technical work that involves confirming that a system, structure, or component is being operated within a limit specified in a procedure or design document would not be considered engineering, whereas technical work to define the allowable limit would be engineering. We then conducted 12 communication sessions between October and December 2012 to communicate to our staff the change in the law and OPG's plans to comply with the law. PEO was very supportive in this process. They attended all these communication sessions and answered many of the questions that our staff had. The next step was to perform a survey across the company of who performs work that fell under OPG's definition of engineering. Altogether, we identified 1,405 people in OPG whose work we deemed to be practice of professional engineering. The next step was to identify those who already held a license under PEO. Although prior to Bill 68, OPG had required that only a small number of technical officers be licensed as engineers, more than half of those who perform work categorized as engineering had elected to become members of PEO of their own volition. The remaining 629 were named on OPG's compliance plan, which was submitted to PEO in January. The next step was for individuals named on the compliance plan to submit their applications to PEO. This needed to be done before February 28th. Again, PEO was very helpful in this process. They conducted a series of webinars to educate our non-licensed staff on how to apply for a license to PEO. OPG then developed an internal tracking process for ensuring that all of the 629 named on the compliance plan submitted their applications to PEO on time. By February 28th, OPG had confirmed that all but one person had submitted their applications to PEO and were now in compliance with the new law. The remaining person was on long-term leave. Then on February 28th, the date for compliance was extended from March 1st to September 1st, 2013. OPG is a large and dynamic organization, and some individuals named on the compliance plan will move to new jobs and be replaced by new staff during the compliance interval, which is between September 1, 2013 and September 1, 2014. As a result, it was necessary to implement controls to monitor these staff movements and update the compliance plan when new individuals were moved into role. OPG is confident that its internal controls will assure its continued compliance with Bill 68 throughout the compliance interval. PEO is continuing to be of significant help to OPG. It is providing OPG staff training on the writing of the professional practice exam and providing special examination sessions at or near OPG locations to make it easier for our staff to qualify. To help OPG manage the licensing process for its staff named on the compliance plan, PEO is also providing statistics of the status of applications of OPG staff. The biggest challenge that lies ahead for OPG is to license its staff who have not graduated from an accredited engineering school. This includes graduates outside Canada, as well as graduates from science programs. Altogether, there are 216 that fall into this category, 143 engineering and 73 science graduates. In the case of the science graduates, many who have graduated from a Canadian university science program are likely to make use of PEO's limited license. OPG envisions two main issues with respect to the use of the limited license. First, there is a requirement that the individual have 13 years of experience. We have chemists and physicists today who are competent and qualified to perform their technical officer jobs in accordance with OPG's qualification program, but do not meet the 13-year experience requirement. Second, there is a requirement to reapply for a limited license every year to PEO, which poses an onerous administrative burden for the individual, for OPG, and for PEO. In the case of graduates educated outside Canada, depending upon their school of graduation, they may be required to write a large number of exams to become licensed with PEO. With only a year and a half or so to comply, it may not be feasible for these individuals to complete all the required exams. In both cases, if the individuals are unable to become licensed with PEO within the compliance interval, then they cannot continue to perform engineering work independently. This is significant. OPG may need to find another individual to oversee their work and ultimately find these individuals alternate non-engineering work. We would need to do this even though these individuals have demonstrated that they are competent to work independently in accordance with OPG's rigorous training and qualification requirements. This will create hardship for the individuals and will create a burden for OPG. This provides a good segue for proposals to address these challenges. First on the list is time. For most of our staff, that is, those who have graduated from an accredited engineering program, compliance by the 1st of September 2014 should not be an issue. However, for others, extending the compliance interval by a further 2 years or so significantly increases the likelihood that they will be successful in meeting PEO's requirements for a license. That is, they will be successful in completing the required exams. Second on the list is to recognize and possibly accredit OPG's in-house processes for training and qualifying its staff. As noted earlier, OPG has a strong training and qualification process, an internal audit process to ensure that the requirements of the program are consistently adhered to, an external audit framework by a strong, competent, and intrusive regulator, the CNSC, a best-in-class continuous improvement program to identify and correct weaknesses in training and qualification, and independent verification of all engineering work to eliminate the risk of an error by a single individual. We're confident that these in-house processes will meet PEO's mandate to ensure that the public is protected and that individuals providing engineering services uphold a strict code of professional ethics and conduct. Third on the list is the need to accommodate the practice of science alongside the practice of professional engineering. As stated earlier, there is much technical work that is undertaken at OPG Nuclear that requires the application of knowledge acquired through science university programs, but which can be interpreted to fit within the definition of engineering currently in the Act. This contribution by non-engineers within the framework of a quality assurance program that assures the safeguarding of life, health, property, economic interests, the public welfare, and the environment needs to be acknowledged and accommodated. Compliance with Bill 68 has been a major area of focus for OPG and will continue to be an area of focus as we drive towards full compliance. It's important to OPG that focus does not drift into distraction from our core business. I hope these suggestions will provide opportunity for a good discussion and will help us to maintain our collective focus to protect our workers, the public, and the environment. In closing, I'd like to take a moment to reflect on safety, as this is an issue that is central to both PEO's and OPG's mandates. Sometimes we hear people talk about safety versus production or safety versus cost, implying that there's a balance, implying that too much focus on safety will take away from production or will result in an onerous economic impact. For OPG, it's all about safety and production. Every worker has the right to expect that they will return home to their loved ones as healthy as when they set off to work. Every member of the public has the right to expect that the activities by local industries will not cause harm to them, their families, and the environment. And every company has the obligation to meet these worker and public expectations. At OPG, we believe that safety always comes first, and I know that PEO does as well. And here's the good news. All those things that we do to make sure our people are safe, the public is safe, and the environment is safe have proven to actually improve our production and reduce our costs. I want you to recognize that OPG is by far the lowest cost energy producer in Ontario, producing energy at about 60% of the average cost of all the others put together. Thank you very much for your attention.